they amputated my leg. And I'm like, shit, my leg is really missing right now. I remember every emotion that you can imagine, think of, went through my head, like anger, frustration, hatred, shame, guilt, regret. But the most underlying one was gratitude. Gratitude that I was still alive. Now I know that God has a bigger purpose than my life. It's not about me, how many people I'm going to be able to help with the challenges and the struggles, and being able to pave that way for people that are dealing with similar struggles.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Front Porch Chronicles. Today's guest is Kevin Parker. Kevin's the founder of True Warrior Recovery, a recovery coach, an interventionist, and a man who's overcome more than most people could imagine. Addiction, rock bottom, an overdose that nearly took his life, and the loss of his leg. But this isn't a story about what Kevin has lost. It's about what he found on the other side. Today, we're going to talk about addiction, recovery, masculinity, faith, purpose, and what happens when life forces you to start over from scratch. Kevin, I appreciate you coming on the front porch, bro.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Well, beautifully said, because my story is way more than just losing my leg, and I think you kind of nailed every single corner of that prism. So I'm super excited and honored to be a part of your show and see where this conversation leads and how we can support your audience.
One of the big things for me is a lot of people dive into the drama and want to talk about you losing your leg and the negative side of and trying to get the hoopla. For me, I love the redemption stories. And the reason that I reached out to you, the reason that I wanted to get you on is because I want people to know that you can go through shit and you can pick yourself up and you can be and do better. And you've done that. And so it was, I'm truly grateful to have you on. You know, when you look back at the young Kevin before addiction, what do you think he was really searching for?
Connection, love. He was a little boy that felt unloved, didn't feel good enough, didn't feel wanted, was rejected by everything and everyone, and never could live up to what the expectations were. Felt very alone, and using drugs and alcohol was the first synthetic, falsified meaning of connection and oneness that I ever felt in my whole life. It put this mask or this cushion between me and my pain, and it was like putting a band-aid on a broken leg. It didn't last long.
Yeah, I always say a band-aid on a bullet hole. It's like it's going to leak out somewhere. You know, what pain did you feel like you were carrying back?
Well, that's really diving into the pain, into the negative aspect. I mean, I came from a broken family. There was a lot of generational trauma in my family. Even before I was born, both of my parents came from physical and mental, emotional, sexual abuse somewhere in the family. Not going to get into their story because that's not my place to tell that. But
Yeah.
it was definitely a lineage. But my parents broke up before I can even remember them ever being together. And my mother moved in with my stepfather, who had another crazy situation. My stepfather was going through a divorce with his, at that time, wife. And his son, at 2 years old, got attacked by a wolf. Completely ripped off his entire scalp, scarred up his face, and tore off one of his ears. And that's a trauma that no 2-year-old should ever have to go through. And I moved into that household right after, immediately after that crazy broken situation. So you can imagine hurt people hurt people. The father was super riddled with guilt and shame. And the son, my age, was going through a trauma, probably embedded by the attack of the wolf. The family dynamic was broken, and then me and my mother moved in, and we became the enemy of a lot of the people in that family because we kind of took the place of the mother and took a little bit of the attention from the little baby boy. And there was another older brother that kind of got pushed to the sideline. So it was just a perfect storm of chaos. Not to mention that my stepfather at the time was an alcoholic, my mother was an alcoholic, my father was an alcoholic, and it was just a really rough time.
I can only imagine. You even talking about it, I'm like, holy crap, to carry that burden as a kid, I could only imagine. Did you know it at the time that it was chaos?
Well, it was the only thing that I knew. The earliest
Yeah.
memories that I remember was my stepbrother who got attacked by the wolf, got having all this attention, going through all these hundreds of surgeries. He couldn't do anything wrong. He would steal my toys, beat me up, take food off my plate. It was just like such a constant message of you don't belong here. You're not welcome. You're not loved. You're not important. And instability and fear because he was twice the size of me even at that age. I was always very little. He was
Yeah.
always one of the biggest kids, and he had a lot of aggression from the imprint that he had on that attack, rightfully so. But as a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old kid, I didn't understand that. That was just my life, and that's just what I knew. And it was just terrifying and unstable, and I really got scared and afraid, and I felt unloved and unwanted and not good enough and pushed to the side. And I remember being suicidal, and I thought there was no such thing. I mean, at that age, you really don't believe in a God, but at that time, I was like, I was a complete atheist. I was like, this world is a cruel place. Why am I here? There's this dark cloud that follows me everywhere. I'm better off dead. I can't do this anymore. And yeah, that's kind of how I started my life. And they say, as I got older and I went to college and learned about human psychology, they say your whole entire personality and persona is
Yeah.
built between 2 and 7, and that was the worst time of my life.
And you felt like I can only imagine you felt like you didn't have a voice, like what you said or what you felt didn't really matter to the.
I didn't have a voice. I didn't have
Yeah.
a voice. My mom was struggling. My mom was going through a lot. She was heartbroken for my dad, then moved into this chaotic environment, then didn't have really any money, then was dealing with depression and alcoholism and all these things. And they had a chaotic, they were in their, now that I look back, I'm 39, they were just in their
Yeah.
20s. I thought they were adults. You're not an adult in your 20s. They were trying to figure it out themselves. And now I give them a lot of grace and mercy and forgiveness for all that stuff. But yeah, it was a really chaotic environment. I didn't understand then. Now I fully understand and comprehend the whole scope of the situation, but it was rough.
Yeah,
It really was.
kudos to you for having the grace and mercy to forgive and to release so that you can kind of move forward with your own healing and know your place now and have that voice. At some point in time, you ended up becoming addicted. When did you realize addiction wasn't something you were really doing anymore, but that it was controlling you?
So I started using when I was 8 or 9. It was a really great crutch until I was about 16. When I started doing cocaine and watching pornography at the same time, those two things really, really, the comorbidity of that was just exponential dopamine firing in my brain, and I would use those two things in congruence with each other all night long. And I think the first taste that it was out of control was I did cocaine and was watching pornography all night until I had a baseball game in the morning and I didn't sleep. I had a game in the morning. I had to wake up and play this game. And right before the game started, in the warm-ups, I winded up having a seizure, throwing the
Shit.
ball around. I caught a ball, I grabbed it, and I threw the ball directly in front of me, and then I ran straight into the backstop and started seizing out. And the only thing that I remember was waking up with my entire team on top of me and throwing them off with superpowers and then getting back up and smashing back into the backstop and doing that in front of my whole family, in front of the whole school, and it being a really big deal. But that was the first, and it would not be the last seizure that I had. But that's when I really realized that there was consequences to my actions, that it was
Yeah.
actually affecting my life. But still at that time, I thought, yeah, I could back out of this and figure it out and maintain it. And I didn't think it had a complete hold on me. I think really when I knew that I was just absolutely hooked and I had no shot was probably about 5 years later when I started doing painkillers every day and I woke up one morning and I was sick because I didn't have my painkillers. That's when I knew the hooks were in me and I wasn't strong enough to just go through the withdrawal symptoms by myself and stay off of it.
Yeah. Plus, it becomes, like you said, it becomes a crutch. And so it becomes like a way for you to not deal with all of that shit that you had as a child that you were unable to process or to work through.
Yeah, well,
You know,
also on top of that, the reason why I started taking painkillers is I got hit by a bus when I was 18 years old. So I injured my neck
shit.
and my back. So now I have an actual reason to take painkillers. And it wasn't like I just did them to get high. That was one of the reasons, but that wasn't the main reason. I just was
Yeah.
in a lot of pain. And at that time in '05, they were giving them out like Skittles.
Yeah.
So I figured, hey,
What?
let's take this painkiller, get the pain off, and kill two birds with one stone, get a nice little buzz.
Yeah. Was there ever a rock bottom moment for you? I'm
There were
sure there was
mul-
probably plenty, but
there were multiple rock bottoms.
yeah,
It wasn't the rockiest bottom of all bottoms.
yeah.
There was a time that I got arrested and thought I was going to spend years in jail and got ratted out from a friend that was supposed to be my friend. Being in so much debt, the times that I overdosed, I fell off a building into a safety net on a job site before. A few of the seizures publicly were pretty humiliating. Losing everything. There were so many rock bottoms. It's subjective. People's rock bottoms are different, but
Everybody.
the rock bottom of all rock bottoms was me ending up in a coma for 3 weeks and dying a few times and ending them up reading me my last rites and meeting God, and that was the rock bottom of all rock bottoms. But then I woke up and then they had to break the news to me that they were going to take my leg. So that was another rock bottom, and like it was like falling down the mountain and hitting every
A
tree on the way
constant, and
down.
like you said, it's always subjective as to what rock bottom is because it's always something below that next rock bottom. It's crazy. I feel like addiction doesn't just steal your future, it almost steals your identity, and it becomes like, right?
So I consider myself an identity coach, not a recovery coach, because
Yeah.
there's 7 levels of change, and identity is the highest level of change, except for spirit. And you got to really work on somebody's spirit before, even if they're even open to that. But identity is the highest level of change above
Yeah.
environment, behavior, beliefs, all those things. If you change on an identity level, you can change everything.
100% agree. Like identity is one of those things. Once you find out who you truly are without all of the mask, without all of the addictions, without all of the crutches or whatever, it allows you to see life more clearly. And then you can make decisions based off of clearness instead of emotion.
I do
You
agree.
know, you talked about one of your worst rock bottoms. Take me back to the overdose. Walk me through that day and what kind of happened.
So it was common because I had an apartment with my brother, and we it was like a flop house.
Yeah.
We had drugs and girls and friends and parties every day, just all day, people in and out doing drugs and drinking. And then we were living in, romantically enough, me and my brother in an apartment, candlelit, drinking and doing drugs. And then we had no water. And then my dad took me in for 6 months. And then he really had a clean scope of what was going on. And they tried to perform a unprofessional intervention. And they woke me up in the morning. They said, you got to go to a program for 2 years right now. You. And I'm wiping sleep out of my eye. I'm like, whoa, hold up. I don't know what you think's going on. That's not happening. They said, well, if you don't go, you got to get out. And I said, well, then I'm getting out. And I grabbed my safe and threw it on my shoulders and stormed out. Tears running down my face, walked about a half mile in the freezing cold in a tank top to my best friend's house, and his mother let me stay. And that night she cooked me a bowl of macaroni and cheese, and should have been the last meal of my life because everybody in the house woke up except for me. They found me face first in my vomit, blue, completely unresponsive. I aspirated and I seizured, swallowed my throw up. And the next thing I knew was I was waking up from a coma 3 weeks later in the ICU. During that coma, apparently I flatlined 3 times. I flatlined and they were just like, he's not going to make it. They read my last rites. My friends and family lined up to say their goodbyes. They were about to pull the plug. They're like, it's over. And nothing short of a miracle. By the grace of God, I just woke up. And when I woke up, the doctors were like, there's no way he's going to make it through the night. You better make arrangements. He's got multi-organ failure. His liver, kidneys, lungs, heart, brain, all of it's completely shut down. He's got 108 fever. His brain is frying right now. We have him under ice blankets. If he survives, miracle that he survives, which he's probably not going to, but if he survives, he's going to be completely brain dead and he's going to lose all 4 of his limbs. See, I had sepsis of the blood. I was on 24-hour dialysis. I had gangrene in all 4 of my limbs. They were completely black. I was 100 pounds soaking wet. I'm 225 right now. So I was skin and bones. Tubes in my throat, tubes in my lungs. They had to take a piece of my lungs out. I mean, there was just so many things that went on that should have killed me. And that's why I know it was a miracle that I survived. They literally called me the miracle boy at the hospital because they're like, there were people that were 10 times better than you that died right next to you. And you just kept pulling along. And, we were like practically taking bets on when you were going to die. And you just kept going. And it's a miracle. They're like, we're scientists and we're doctors and everything. And, we believe in science, but you were a miracle.
How fucking amazing is it that through all of that, you're where you're at now and you're helping change people's lives?
Yeah, I give all the glory to God because all of that happened in my life. It ain't me. I don't have the capacity of what I've done in my life and where I've gone and how many things I've overcame. It wasn't me. I had an encounter with God. He literally snatched me out of the depths of hell, said, "You can't have this one. I'm going to use this one." And he's been working on me ever since. And, I know.
Man, that's fucking powerful. That shit is powerful, bro. That is powerful.
Yeah, and I'd be lying to you if I said that was the last. This whole experience was the last struggle that I had in my life. But God has been working on me every step of the way. He's been walking beside me and helping me lift and get through. And I struggle with pain every single day. But I just keep overcoming one obstacle after the next. And it really comes down to him utilizing my story to help other people through the fire that are
Yeah.
struggling with similar demons, struggles, and iniquities. But yeah, it's an honor and a blessing to be able to have gone through what I went through and being
It's
able to utilize it for other people's benefit.
it's his will, but I want to say you said it's all him. It is all him, but it's also you because you made the decision. Take ownership of that, how strong and courageous you are to take ownership of that and change your life and use that not to be a poor pitiful me, but to use that to help change other people's lives because that's
So you said it
powerful.
right there. When you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, you don't have many options. You got two options. And you just said it. I had an option. When I got out of that hospital after 4 months, after learning how to walk again, talk again, eat again, breathe again, drink again for the very first time, and that was a whole other chapter you could read in my book. We don't have to get into that because that'll take another 6 hours.
Yeah.
But I had two options. I can wallow in self pity, poor me, woe is me, and become a victim like I was for the 25 years of my life before then, or take all of that pain, all that adversity, all that challenge it, and harness it as rocket fuel to ignite a passion in me like I've never seen before. And I was so sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I was so grateful for the second chance that God gave me that I was like, dude, I already tried that wallowing in self pity and being a victim and wah wah wah. Whoa, my circumstances are my reality. It didn't work. It sucked.
Yeah.
It got me to exactly where I was. I was like, let me just harness it for everything I got, everything inside of me, every ounce of strength that I have, and use it and transmute it into something good. And that's really where winning against all odds kind of birthed, and the whole story of my life came from to fruition.
Fucking love it. When you woke up and you realized you had lost your leg, what was the first thing that went through your mind? Because
Shit,
I can only imagine you've been through so much trauma. I can only imagine what did you think?
So, so when you're in the hospital and something like that happens, they have you on so much meds.
Yeah,
I'm on Dilord, I'm on the drip. Like every hour, I could say, it's a pain med. I could mouth pain meds because I can't even talk, I can't even move. But I was in excruciating pain. I mean, I had gangrene in all four of my limbs. I had sepsis of the blood. My organs weren't even working. 20%. I had a fever at that point at 105. Like it came down 3 degrees, and I'm still at 105. So like I was in so much pain and so much agony. They told the doctors like, well, we're gonna have to take your leg. I'm like, all my bad luck was in that foot anyway. Take that leg. I don't need it. But I'm like in like a delusional state on Dilordin and like this surreal situation. Like, is this real? Is this not real? I'm on breathing machines. I got tubes in my throat, tubes in my lungs. I'm 100 pounds. I'm like, this can't even be real. So I'm like, yeah, like almost in a dream state. Yeah, take my leg. That's what you want to do. Take it. I'm like, I'm in a lot of pain and I'm not in pain because I'm in meds and I'm in pain and I'm not in pain. I'm like, how much worse can it get? And then they said, okay, we're going to take your leg. And then I woke up one morning and, they put you under so you don't feel it. And at one point, the nurse picks up the sheet to change the dressing on my leg
yeah,
because they amputated my leg. And I'm like, shit. my leg is really missing right now. They weren't joking. This is real. And this is going to be the rest of my life forever. And there's no going back. Like, it's gone. I remember every emotion that you can imagine, think of, went through my head, like anger, frustration, hatred, shame, guilt, regret. But the most underlying one was gratitude. Gratitude that I was still alive. And then all the questions come through your head, like, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? Because I was a concrete laborer, I was a union worker, heavy
Yeah.
lifting. Not going to do that anymore. I was an athlete. What am I going to do for fun? What kind of identity am I going to have as a one-legged man? What kind of woman is going to want to marry a man with one leg when there are literally billions walking around with two? And these are all the questions and all these unanswered things that were rattling around in my head, and it was just crazy. I was like, wow. And not to mention that, I still couldn't breathe on my own. And I
Yeah.
couldn't move my hand. My hand was dead, and I was 100 pounds, and the other limbs were still black. Like, am I gonna have to lose all the other three? Like, is this just the first one to go? So
I can
yeah,
only imagine. Let me ask you, did you ever question at that time? Did you ever question or ask God why?
I was a very self-deprecating person. Still at this time, I still am again. I try to I think forgiving myself and giving myself mercy and grace is the hardest I've ever had in my whole life. That journey is like a forever thing. I always used to beat myself because I never felt good enough. I never felt like I deserved. I never felt like I was enough. So I was more like, yep, you deserve this. You did the drugs, you did this, you did that. This is your punishment. You're lucky that God even is saving your life. You're lucky that you're not ending up in hell or wherever you would be at the end of life, you know? Now you got to deal with these consequences. This is your fault. This is all your fault. Like, God didn't do this to you, you did this to you. And I didn't see like the light at the end of the tunnel. I didn't see how this was going to benefit other people. I was stuck in my own shit at this time, still stuck, still like, oh, man, just another chapter of a crappy life. But at least I know God exists. So like, there's a little bit of sunshine at the end of the rainbow. It's not like just you just black and then that's the end.
All dark, yeah.
Yeah, like at least I know God exists. There is a heaven, undoubtedly. It's a beautiful place, and yeah, and at least I have an opportunity to make a relationship with God. I didn't really know who He was at that time, but I knew He was real. So at least I knew I had another journey to go through.
Yeah.
I had something to look forward
That
to.
that helps to have
Yeah.
something to look forward to.
I feel bad for people that have absolutely no faith. I think people that have no faith actually have more faith than people that do have faith because it's very hard for me to comprehend. Like, just a big bang blew up and then everything came out of nothing. Like, that takes a lot of faith for me. I understand, and it's like a journey for everybody that everybody has to go through and process. And I went down every single road there is, so I understand each one. But you
Yeah.
have to have faith in some kind of aspect. But to not have anything to look forward to at the end of your life, or not have anything to, as like a North Star, to like be a good person and stuff like that, I struggle with that.
Me too.
Yeah.
Did you ever ask yourself why you survived when so many others didn't?
At many times now I know that God has a bigger purpose than my life. It's not about me. Yeah, He loves me. Yeah, He wanted me to be saved and all that stuff. But it really isn't about me. He's using me as a conduit to help other people because I was strong enough to withstand the storm, and I was
Yeah.
strong enough to overcome these things. And you know, I hate this saying, God gives His toughest battles to His strongest warriors. I'm like, well, why, why do I have to be that thing? Because it's not fair, but it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really is. It's about what I'm going to be able to do in this life that I've been given, and how many people I'm going to be able to help with the challenges and the struggles, and being able to pave that way for people that are dealing with similar struggles.
Yeah. You know, you spent a lot of years helping yourself and people through addiction and recovery. What's one of the wildest things that you've ever seen?
Wildest things that I've ever seen. I mean, there's so it depends on what flavor of crazy you want to talk about. You know, there's so many addictions. There's drug addiction, there's sex addiction, there's gambling addiction. I mean, choose your poison, and I'll tell you a story.
Well, let's go into something even better. What's the wildest recovery story you ever witnessed?
I mean, my recovery story is, and I'm not saying that from a prideful or egotistical way. But knowing all the intricacies of my story and what I went through and how many layers of addiction there was, the enemy tried to get me about 10 times with so many different things, whether it was sex addiction, pornography addiction, drinking, drugs, excess, obsessiveness. I mean, just indulging in pleasure in general, adrenaline junkie. I mean, there were so many things that I could have got killed, died, or ruined my life exponentially from. That the only explanation that I'm here is God, because there's no way I jumped through that many hoops of fire and got out as unscathed as possible as I am right now. But I have a friend, Will, I won't give you his last name for anonymity, but he went to 45 different rehabilitation centers.
Holy
It
crap.
wasn't third time a charm. No, it was 45th time was a charm.
At least he
That,
found the charm.
yeah, that's pretty wild.
Yeah, that,
I mean, I can't even believe he was that resilient and was like, all right, I'm going to try a 45th time. I would have been like, dude, I'm just an addict at this point.
yeah.
Ride it to the
Kudos
hills
to him.
fall. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's a pretty impressive dude. That was probably one of the most resilient, persistent recovery stories that I've seen. Yeah, I guess to not say me, I would say my friend Will. He was pretty resilient and went through it.
I love that. Not third time is a charm, 45th time, but like at some point in time, like you have to say at least it took 45 times, but at least at some point, think about how many people that never stop, never like even know who they are. They die not knowing who they are internally because they never heal.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
crazy to think.
it's so sad. I do in-home detoxes. I have a doctor and a nurse that work for me, and we do in-home detoxes and do comfort meds in the comfort of their own home. We do a multi-customized program and all that stuff. And I have like a 90% efficacy rate. Like if they want to get help, I have a way of getting in there and changing their identity and figuring out a life that really works. But I have a really sad guy that I've seen multiple times that I came to his house, and he's an older gentleman. He's in his mid 60s and he's been drinking for 45, 50 years, and he's got all the money in the world, and he just won't let go of control. And no matter what happens, no matter what he loses, no matter what his rock bottom is, I mean, he always falls into a bed of money. But so it's not that hard of a rock bottom. But money
Yeah.
does not make you happy, and it's just really sad that you gotta want it for yourself, and it has to become more painful to use than the pain it's going to take to get sober. And that's the formula, man.
The hardest thing is to submit.
Yeah.
That's the number one thing.
Step one. Step one is the hardest step. People that go like they fumble in the 12 steps, and that's not how I got sober, but I went through them and helped me with sex addiction. But like people stumble with the making amends and the forgiveness, all those steps. Dude, I think step one is the hardest. Like submitting, like like I got a problem and I'm
Yeah.
powerless.
Well, I think it's hard because like people that went through and the what I found to be is the reason it was so hard for me to submit to was because as a child, I was so hardened and so jaded to because I had endured so much abuse and so much trauma and taught that I didn't have a voice. It was hard for me not to feel like I had some sort of control, or my mind worked where any situation I stepped in, I had 3 steps ahead of plans of what I was going to do if it went south, what it was going to do. And so, like, fully submitting is hard because you've created this wall to protect you and to,
Trust issue.
yes,
Exactly.
100%. It 100%. When you're hanging with some of your old friends and somebody says, tell that story, what's the story everybody always asks you to tell?
Well, I can't tell you how many times I've had to say, how'd you lose your leg? I mean, it's not even just my friends. It's people walking in the street. Dude, how'd you lose your leg? Are you a veteran? No, unfortunately, it's not as honorable as that. How'd it happen? And I gotta go. Sometimes I'll be like a shark ate my leg and I'll just walk away because I'm like, told this story 10,000 times. But yeah, that's the story that everybody asks because it's so evident. But there's way more damage in this body, in this mind, in this soul that I had to overcome and heal from, and all the layers of therapy and transmuting pain into my purpose. But It has to be how you lost your leg because somebody that's doesn't even know me can ask me that question.
Yeah, I've done MMA so long. I've got cauliflower ears, and it's like not that I lost my leg, but like it's like every time somebody sees my ear, the first thing they're like, "Oh, are you a wrestler?" I'm like, "No, just poor white trash from Alabama that got into MMA and did some things." So relatable. Addiction will make you betray the person that you swore you'd never become. What's the most shocking thing addiction, in your opinion, makes people willing to do?
I think the most shocking thing that'll addiction will make you do is betray yourself. It's deep enough to betray the people you love, your mother, your father, your wife, your kids, your loved ones. But man, addiction has a way of having you betray your own self. And then that brings the shame loop. And you're like, how dare I do that? And then the shame makes you use more. And then it's this never ending cycle of feeding itself. And it just becomes a beast. And it just becomes a bigger and bigger snowball. And it's mind baffling because like how could you tell a regular person that you're in a shame loop of betraying yourself? They're like, just stop betraying yourself. It's your
If it
own
was
interest
that
to
easy,
not
if
do it.
it was that easy, if it was that easy.
Yeah, like a regular person that doesn't have the addiction gene or disease or however you want to slice
Trauma,
that, because there's
yeah,
a lot of ways that you can look at it.
yeah.
But they're like, dude, just stop. You're hurting yourself. Like it's like trying to saw off your arm in the movie Saw. Like just stop moving the saw because you're hurting yourself. You're the one that's doing it. Just stop doing it. And you're like, I can't stop cutting off my arm. And people are like, it's your own fault. And that's why people are like, they deserve it. They deserve it. It's their own fault. They're doing it to themselves. And they're like, I have zero empathy for anybody that does drugs and alcohol.
And then it goes right back into that shame loop of hurting somebody and making them feel helpless, worthless again, and then just deeper spiraling. It's a crazy, crazy. I call it the hamster wheel of destruction, and it keeps going until you finally jump off of that thing. What do you think most men are starving for emotionally right now in this world?
You know, I think compassion. I think as men, at least where I grew up, men are supposed to be strong, fuck your feelings, do it anyways. And a lot of the time, in most scenarios, even in intimate relationships with your wife or your kids, like there's some things you just can't share. Not because you don't want to, but because they depend on you and you're the strong one and you need to,
Yeah.
shoulder it. And if you're weak, then they're nervous and now they're insecure. Now you're infecting them and then they can't trust you. And now the woman is out of her feminine. She's now in her masculine and now it's depolarizing the relationship. So like I might as well just shut up and eat it because it's not going to do anything. So where do you get an outlet for the struggles that you're going through? Like where do you get the relief? Because like there's only unconditional love for babies, women, and puppies. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like there's a limit. Like men deserve love, but if you don't, you're on your own. Like if you don't provide, if you don't protect, if you don't make a living and do something with your life, nobody's really coming to save you. You're probably going to end up on the streets, and you're going to get stuck in some kind of cycle, and that's the reality. Like you have to man up and figure a way. I always say that women are born with inherent value. Men have to climb the mountain to earn it. And it's like an inverse effect. Like women lose value from the decisions that they make and the stuff that they do in their lives, and they start losing their value. And men start at the bottom, and they inherently have to gain the value through their lives. So that's why an 18-year-old woman could end up on a yacht, and a man has to work his way up to it till he's 40 or 50 till he can buy that yacht.
Be the 60-year-old dude that's
60,
buying the
more like
yacht.
60-year-old. So it's like, I mean, there's outliers to that scenario, and I'm not trying to be sexist or biased or whatever the
No,
case.
it's 100% true. And that's why, as men, like it's so important of who you align with and being able to have that masculine, but also having that feminine energy because it's a yin and a yang in a man. Like we feel like you got to be masculine, but also a feminine energy doesn't necessarily just go towards a woman. It's one of those things it's nurturing. It's being able to have empathy and sympathy. You got to have those things, and it's a yin and a yang.
So I love that. I did a lot of energy energy work, masculine and feminine energy, and we both have masculine and feminine energy in both of us. You have a one that's majority or dominant in your body, and there needs to be polarity in relationships, but also in your life you need masculine and feminine energy. Masculine is take charge, go after it, create a container for safe security provision, logical, definitive, going after things. That's a masculine energy. Feminine is compassionate and understanding and creative, and it's just as powerful. It's a little less stable. It goes with the emotional state. I think of it like the waves of an ocean. Yeah, they're beautiful and gorgeous, but they can knock your whole city down in a tsunami. You know,
Yep.
it's not any weaker than masculine. It's just a different energy.
100%.
And
And
I
it's a
think that's
yin
why
and a
the
yang.
masculine and feminine are so beautiful, the yin and the yang, because masculine energy is about container and structure and containing that energy, and feminine energy is so flowing, and they need each other. They both need each other to work properly and effectively.
100%. What do you think a lot of men are pretending that they don't?
A lot of a lot of men are pretending they don't need help. I think men need other men, and I've struggled with this in my life because I am a giver, and I've given. I always put my hand out and let somebody bite my hand. And if they bite it, I'm like, all right, well, I guess I know where I stand from you. And a lot of people have taken chomps out of me, time and time again. But I've learned who are not my people and who are my people. And I'm more of like a lone wolf. I have a million people that I know, but no like close group of friends. And you know, I join this group, I join this group, I do a lot of nomad traveling, and I just go wherever I can go and try to meet the people that I'm supposed to meet. But although I do have a few great brothers and great family, I've moved around a lot. So I just moved to Arizona. I'm actually starting to create a lot of great men in my life. But man, men need other men to champion them. Iron sharpens iron, brother. And you need a man to look you in the eye and be like, yo, dude, you're fucking up. Or
Yeah,
like, yo, bro,
100.
you need some help. You know, so you don't have to go complain to your wife and kids how hard life is. I got you. I'll
And
bring,
if you need to be vulnerable,
yeah,
if you need to fucking cry, like that's the
let's
one
cry.
thing.
We'll cry in
Like
this
for me,
circle.
like bro, I'll cry with you. Like
Yeah.
it's one of those things we need that shit. Like all that macho bullshit. Like rub dirt on it and just suck it up and whatever. That's why motherfuckers are killing themselves. That's why people are caught in addiction cycles. That's why so many people are killing themselves before their time is that mentality. And so like having people, that's why this type of conversations are so fucking important so that people that are watching this can know like these are two badass motherfuckers, but at the end of the day, it's fucking love and like we know ourselves, we
Yeah.
know our feelings, we know our emotions. That shit's important.
You know, I'll tell you, God makes me cry more than anything. I can't tell you how many times I'm in worship and I'm just bawling my eyes, crying. I don't care who's looking, who's seeing. And also on the flip side of that coin, I'll be choking somebody out or slitting someone's throat if I have to, with tears down my face, like you made me do this to you. This is your fault. Like,
Yeah.
and like, you know, it's just emotions need to be taken out or they're going to explode in the wrong place, in the wrong environment. They're going to come spewing out at the wrong time. It's like a kettle, you know, the
Yes.
steam that comes out, it needs to be released, man.
Got
A
has to
good,
be.
a good cry session will alleviate hundreds of hours of therapy if you just let it out when it needs to be let out.
I feel like most men don't need more motivation. We keep making these motivation, oh, this time. They need more meaning. And that is so fucking important right now in these days and times.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah. You know, your bio says lost my leg and found God. What does that mean to you?
It means that my previous life, so I went into the hospital 11/22/11, which is a completely symmetrical number if you believe in numerology. It was the
Yes.
turning point of my life. The beginning of my life before 11/2 was the beginning of my life of addiction and victimhood and all that stuff. And I lost my leg, and then it was the 2/11 on the second part of it, where I've had meaning and purpose and God in my life, and I met God at that moment. Didn't know who he was, but I unequivocally knew that he existed, and I went on a search to find out what that is and who that is. And so it took me to lose my leg to find the most important thing in this world is finding God. and finding your purpose and your meaning and why you were put on this planet in this universe. Because I thought we were just in this terrible abyss of pain and suffering before I lost my leg, and I was just numbing myself until I died with drugs and alcohol until I lost my leg, and I realized that even God can use the worst things in your life for good if you let him. So yeah, it cost me my leg, but I gained so much more. I gained God, I gained purpose, I gained meaning, I gained impact, I gained contribution, I gained love and connection, I gained significance, I gained certainty, I gained variety, I gained every need and value that you can possibly ever imagine, and it just cost me my leg. And when I say just cost me my leg, I mean it. It just cost me my leg. I would give my other leg if I had to. It was worth it. It was worth it 100 folds. No doubt. Don't get it wrong. I'm in a lot of pain. I'm in more pain than most people can imagine every day. I'm working on it. I will eventually find some relief, and it's finding different things that are working and tapping into the subconscious and neuroplasticity and, all these different things. But man, I wouldn't trade it for the world because my life was meaningless when I had two legs. It just cost me a leg to find purpose, God, mission, gratitude, love, connection, significance, everything a man would ever want.
All those things you wanted as a kid, all those things that you needed that you didn't get. How fucking powerful. And true essence of a warrior. You said something earlier about the honor in being a veteran, and not to take anything away from that at all by any means. But you going through what you've been through and doing the work and the stuff that you're doing now, that's the definition of honor and a fucking warrior to me, and much respect. What would you say to somebody that's listening right now that's angry at God?
Great God. I think it's a perspective thing because I think you need to look. See, everybody looks through life through their own keyhole of life, and you don't see the whole entire picture, man. You see 1% of what's really going on, and you're so jaded and so fixated on the past programming from your past and your trauma and the experiences that you went through that you don't see the whole picture. You don't see the forest for the trees. You don't see the bird's eye view that God sees. You don't see how he's trying to use that one thing for good. Like, for instance, for me, I could be angry at God that I lost my leg. I could be angry at God that I lost my stepmother. I could be angry at God that I'm in pain every single day of my life. But once I change my perspective, what's his name? When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Can't remember who said that. He's a very famous.
Whoever it was, I like it, and I'm bookmarking that too. I will use it
Dr.
again.
Wayne Dyer. I didn't want to take it for myself. Dr. Wayne Dyer, amazing book. Read his books. He says when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So what you're looking at it was God's fault. God created this universe. God created everything, but he created free will. This world is broken not because of how he designed the world, not how he intended the world to be, but you can't have love without free will. So he willingly allows us to destroy our lives and make bad decisions and do all these things that aren't good for us, because if he didn't, then it wouldn't be love, it would be slavery. If he forced us to love him, if he forced us to do everything that he wanted us to do, then we would just be robots and we would just be doing what? And we would
The
have
same thing.
no experience of the world. And even if you believe in duality, which I do as well, there has to be bad to experience good, because if you don't have bad and you don't have good, then even a good day is just a day. There needs to be contrast. Like, don't you realize that when bad things happen, it draws you closer to God because you're more dependent on him? You're like, God, I'm broke. I don't know what to do. You're leaning on him. You're faithful. But that's why they say it's harder for the rich to get to heaven than for a camel to walk through the eye of a needle.
Yeah.
Because they got all the money in the world, they got all the resources, they're not dependent on anything. But he says that's who is blessed, that the poor are blessed. I don't know the exact stuff, but it's true. The poor
Yeah.
are blessed because they're more faithful. They're more appreciative. If they got a dollar, they're thankful for that dollar. There's billionaires that are just burning money and just bored of life, and they're not fulfilled with anything. There's nothing that impresses them. But a poor person's like, oh man, somebody just gave me a loaf of bread. Thank God, this is amazing. Such a great day. There are people that are throwing out loaves of bread every day because it doesn't have the right flavor in it.
It's
So it's
crazy
all
to think.
perspective. It's about changing your perspective, man. Everything, if you allow God to utilize every single experience for good, he can. But it's your free will to look at it resentful, to look at it prideful, to look at it not enough. How dare you even feel that way? You don't know what's going on. Everything. Like I lost my leg. I could have said, this sucks. I gotta have to find out what life is with one leg. I'm grateful, man. I'm a one-legged warrior. That set me aside, set me apart from every other person on this planet. I stand apart. And yeah, things are harder for me. Everything in this life is harder for me. Make no mistake. But because it's harder, it's more valuable.
And you're more grateful.
And I'm more grateful. And I get more appreciation and thanks and all the things. I have I work with a lot of millionaires, and because I do in-home detox and it's expensive sometimes.
Yeah.
And I've had clients that are super, super wealthy, but they're not grateful, appreciative for nothing. And I even have friends that struggled to become wealthy, and I talk to them now and they're like, yeah, I've got millions of dollars, but it's not as exciting as the grind, as the journey as it was to get here. Yeah, it's cool to be rich, it's cool to be a millionaire and all that stuff, but I kind of miss the days where I didn't know. I was fighting every day. I was working 20-hour days to get it, the grind. It's not about the destination. It's about falling in love with the journey.
Journey. Ooh, yeah.
And it's even from a scientific, so you think it's woo-woo what I'm talking about. It's not, it's scientific.
No, I agree
Yeah,
100%.
because the second you hit a goal, your dopamine's right at the crux of you getting to the goal, your dopamine is at its highest. But the second you hit the goal, dopamine drops.
Yep.
Same thing with winning the lotto. You win $100 million. You're happy as hell for like a few months. You're like, this is the greatest thing ever in the world. I'm going to buy this. I'm going to buy that. I'm going to do this. I'm going to travel. And then after a few months, you dip down and you go back to your homeostatic function of what your baseline of happiness is. And that's why they say happiness comes from within. It's your job to create the meaning and the circumstance of your life. It's not external. And once you start realizing that and start looking within, and that's why spirituality is so important and gratitude is so important, because without that, you're just going to be a miserable person no matter what.
No matter what.
Money just multiplies what's inside you. It's not the love of money.
100%.
Money's not
Yeah.
the root of all evil. The love of money is the root of all evil. So if you have money and you're a miserable person, you could be 100 times more of a miserable person. If you're a bad person, you can make an evil person. But if you're a good person, you could be a great person. Or if you're a generous person, you could be a philanthropist of all philanthropists. It's just a multiplier of what's in someone's heart. So get your heart right before you get your money right. Get your heart right before you get your blessings right, because eventually you're just gonna have blessings and you're not gonna be grateful for them. You'll be like, yeah, it's just another blessing. What's next?
Dusting your shoulders off. What's the biggest misconception you think people have about recovery?
People think that recovery is about stop doing drugs. Recovery for me is about making an identity shift. And that's why I consider myself as an identity coach. Because yeah, you can get rid of the drugs and the alcohol and the sex and the gambling, but you're just white knuckling it. You're not getting all the juice from life. It's about the transformation that happens when you don't need that. Because I truly believe that people do drugs and alcohol to find connection with God, with themselves, with other people, because the opposite of addiction is connection. And what drugs, alcohol, sex, gambling does is gives you a taste of connection, a synthetic form of it, a taste of heaven, but it really delivers you hell. And then it gets snatched away from you and then you want more. And you've had a taste of it now and you can't not untaste it. And I think the identity shift of recovery is finding that connection. That's why I think it's a physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual journey recovery, because you need that component, or else you're going to have this God-sized hole in your chest and you're just going to fill it with something else. If you're doing drugs now, it's going to be sex.
Yeah.
Sex, it's going to be freaking cookies. If it's not cookies, it's going to be social media. It's just going to be something. And it's the only thing that fills that is God. And man, to do the work, to find the identity, I'm a child of Christ. God's saved me and protected me every step of the way. And if I didn't have that component, I'd still be shoving things in there that don't belong. And I think once you create a life and an identity that doesn't need that crutch to find that connection, fulfillment, joy, purpose, and peace, then you're just white knuckling it. You're sober, but you're not recovered.
It's going to be an everlasting journey, that hamster wheel. We keep going back to the hamster wheel.
Yeah.
What's the first thing someone needs to do if they want to rebuild their life?
Surrender. Your stinking thinking got you to exactly where you are today. There's no way you're going to think your way out of the situation you're in. And addiction is the only disease that you can't do by yourself. You Can't do it by yourself because you and your stinking thinking got you to exactly where you are. You're not going to get this revelational thought that's going to get you out of the muck of that you've been in for your whole time. You need somebody else to guide you, to protect you, whether it's God, whether it's another man, another human, to help you walk out of that, to see yourself from a different perspective. And you need to surrender the process and be like, okay, I'm open to another way.
I
I'm open to that
1000%
higher
agree.
level
Until
knowing stuff.
you, yeah, until you submit, you're gonna continue. That hole is gonna be there. What's something that people admire about you today that was born from your pain?
And I don't even give myself these characteristics, but my resilience and my strength, because, and that's why my book was called Winning Against All Odds, is because no matter what was put in front of me, even if I bitch and moan the whole way, I'm finding a way through it, over it, or around it, and it is what it is. It's not going to stop me. I may stumble, I may trip, I may fall, but I'm going to get up, and you can't beat a man that's not going to stop getting up. Like, you ever fight somebody that you knock them down, you're like, yeah, and you turn around, getting back up. He's like, I'm just getting warmed up. That's me. And I'm missing a leg, I can't move my hand, I can't see out of an eye, I got a black eye, broken jaw. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, man, that's all you got.
You
And
know,
man,
it's funny that you said strength and resilience because if you were to ask me to define you with just two words, those were the ones that I would have picked too. You know,
it's
when
hard for
it's
me to
all,
say that because I know how much pain I go through, and my wife knows how much pain I go through, and there's days that I don't want to get out of bed, and I can't walk, and like I can't get my leg on, and my back hurts, and my neck hurts, and the nerve damage, and my pain. I didn't sleep all night, and I'm cranky. But that's behind the scenes. Overall, when it comes down to a push comes to shove, I just keep going.
yeah, when it's all said and done, what do you hope people remember about your life?
That if I can do it, they can do it. Because I was the weakest, most victim mentality kid you'll ever meet as a kid. My identity that was programmed into me through my subconscious experience as a kid was you're the weakest kid on the playground. You don't deserve anything. You're not loved. You're not wanted. You're not good enough. You should just give up. I used to self-deprecate, self-punish, self-harm because I just didn't feel like I used to always take the shitty end of the stick because that's what I thought I deserved. And if a guy like that can crawl himself out of that mentality, out of that mind state, out of that circumstance, dude, anybody can. I'm not special. I just never gave up.
That's strong. That
I'm still
makes you,
falling on
but
my face
but
every
let me
day.
tell you something. That does make you special that you never give up. You don't give yourself enough credit. I think you stay stuck in the same mindset I do. It's hard for us to give grace and mercy. You said this earlier. It's hard to give grace and mercy to ourselves. And I'm kind of the same as you. I've won world championships, Pan Am championships, all of these things. But to me, I still see my dad as a kid telling me it's not good enough and I'm not worthy. And so it's this constant loop.
Well, the good thing is the first step is self-awareness, and I am very, very self-aware of these things. So hopefully one process, one procedure, one experience, one therapeutic experience in my life might snap that all into place. But until then, I'm just very aware of it.
We're in the same boat, bro. You roll right, I'll roll left. I got you. We're good to go. You know, Kevin, there's a man or a person listening right now that maybe they're struggling, maybe they're carrying shame, maybe they're battling addiction, maybe they're convinced they've gone too far and there's no way back. What would you tell them?
If you don't have the strength in the belief that you can make it, borrow someone else's. Lean on a brother. Lean on me. Lean on Clinton. Lean on one of those people that you see on stage because they know it's possible. They believe in you. And if they believe in you, just for shits and giggles, could it be possible? In the beginning of my journey of losing my leg and all that stuff, I was suicidal even after. I was like, oh, that's it. This is the end of my life. But if I
Yeah,
didn't look around and see all the people were like, I can't believe you just made it through that because they experienced it from the outside. Like me in the
yeah.
coma 3 weeks, people saying that I was going to die and all this stuff and seeing that I was pushing through it. And they're like, dude, this kid's the strongest kid I've ever seen in my life. And I'm like, it's over. It's done. I'm not going to make it through. If I didn't have those people that believed in me, that loved me, that cared about me more than I cared about myself, more than I believed in myself, I might have gave up.
Thank
I
God
just
you
think the
didn't.
court system, man.
Thank God you didn't. Thank God you didn't, man. God is good. You know, Kevin, I want to tell you how much I appreciate you being here and sharing your story. I think one of the biggest takeaways from this conversation is no matter how far someone has fallen, there's always a path forward. And your story is 100% proof of that. To everybody that's watching, if this episode impacted you, make sure that you like, subscribe, share it with someone who needs it, because we all need somebody at some point in time. We'll see you next week on the front porch. Kevin, I appreciate you coming on. If you would, how can people get in contact or touch with you? And I'll also apply those links to the YouTube page.
Well, I would really just love the support and community. I'm trying to build a massive community, the True Warrior Alliance. If you can follow me on Instagram at Kevin Parker Official and also TikTok and Kevin Parker Official, whichever one is your favorite. You can find me on Facebook, Kevin J. Parker. It's just a little harder to find on those type of platforms. I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me. I'm not hard to find. You can Google me. But if you're an email guy, which I'm not, you can email me at kevin@truewarriorsuccess.com. We can have a conversation. But I'm here to help. I'm here to support in any way that I can, man. I hope my story empowered you. And if you want to read or listen on Audible, paperback, or Kindle, my book is called Winning Against All Odds, Discovering the True Warrior Within, to get the full scope of the story. I know we only had an hour. But it was an honor to be on your show. It was an honor to connect with your audience. I hope I've impacted at least one person out there. And Clinton, thank you so much for having me on the show. It was an absolute privilege. I'm looking forward to developing this relationship with you. I now consider you my brother, and I'm looking forward to the things that we're going to do in the future because I really resonated with you in our conversation before this and during. So thank you.
Likewise, my brother. And you said impacted one person. It impacted me. You got a brother in me from our prior conversation and then this one as well. I appreciate you coming on and much love, brother.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, brother. God bless
You
everyone.
too. God bless.